Now I want to talk about Xiaomi. Xiaomi is being interesting because they keep dropping these concepts which seem either far in the future or seem like just concepts for the sake of getting attention, right? The latest of which is this. I'm gonna have to actually refer back to what they are calling it because there's an official name for it. I've just been referring to it as the Waterfall display, but it's the first quad curved waterfall screen concept smartphone. The 88 hyper quad curved screen design allows visual interfaces to flow over the phone's surface like water. All right, and this is a unibody, no port design. So this is Xiaomi kind of, again, we talked about the Xiaomi Mi Air Charge in the previous episode. Wireless charging, true wireless charging from your device across the room. Now they've kind of come up with this curved, quad curved design of this concept smartphone, which I personally think will never actually come to market.
Yeah.
With the Mi Air Charge, I'm kind of like, maybe in a few years we might see it, a different a version of that at least. With this, I kind of think like, nah, it just doesn't seem practical, right? Now, a lot of people were like, it looks super cool because everything kind of just flows over the edges. But they were very clever in their marketing videos because the edges, the corners, are shaded out quite a bit, and it's just like, okay, why are they hiding the corners? And they're hiding the corners because the corners look really bad because you've got these four extreme curves on the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. But then what happens when they meet on the corners, right? Do they blend into each other? No, we see gaps, right? And it doesn't look too good when you see those, which is why in all of their marketing videos and everything they've kind of covered those up.
I mean, it's a super dark video, though, by the way.
It is. Yeah, I mean, again, they've done that deliberately. Now, with curved displays, I mean, Samsung were, I would say, the innovators of curved displays. We saw the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge a few years ago, and I remember when I first saw that, I was like, wow, that is so cool. And it was super, super interesting seeing a curved display, and it just looked very different. And then, Samsung kind of carried that on and it became their signature design. And then lots of other manufacturers started to do that as well with curved displays on either side. We've got the likes of Huawei, we've got Xiaomi doing lots of these as well. OnePlus is another manufacturer that now has curved displays. So it looks like the OnePlus 9 Pro will also have curved sides on either display. But then that whole hype started to die down, right? People still like curved displays and they like the look of it, but I think practicality kind of went against that. And if you look at what Samsung is doing, the ones who actually started the whole trend, they're now actually moving away from it. So if you look at the Samsung Galaxy S21 series, the S21 and the S21 Plus actually have pretty flat displays, right? The S21 Ultra, yes, it's got slight curves on either side, but it's nowhere as significant as what we've had in previous years. It's just a very slight, subtle curve, and most people, I think that's kind of like the best. It's kind of like an in-between. It's not too much here or there. Xiaomi doing this extreme curve display on this smartphone with no ports. Because, I mean, if there's screen all around, then, where are you actually going to have a port? So it's like kind of like this portless smartphone. To me, it kind of just looks like Xiaomi is showing off what they can do and what they are capable of. But it's purely just to create hype, to get people talking about Xiaomi, and then boom, here's the Mi 11. Here's our
Absolutely.
latest flagship. And that's kind of what the tactic seems from Xiaomi, and especially to the build-up to the Mi 11, which you've checked out, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely right. I think Xiaomi has this. They have this mindset where we create a hype of what we can do and make this a. Actually, not. I wouldn't say just create the hype. I'll say they've borrowed this from Razer. Now, Razer as a company, for at least 11 times I've gone to CES, every year they release a new Razer laptop, right? 13-inch, 15-inch, and then they will show you the Razer Optimus, the Razer Athena, and it's always cool stuff. They will have a working model right there at CES.
Yeah.
But Razer always tell you, they're like, look, we're a small company and we always try to do these fun stuff, but it's let you guys know that we can do things, and it got people excited. Now I think this is probably part of that, like either CES or MWC package that they would have showcased and said, here's all we can do. But right now, like you said, have the B11.
Yeah, and I think this is obviously a tactic that pretty much all major smartphone and just tech companies do in general. They kind of have these concept devices which actually gets a lot of attention and gets people really talking. Take the LG Rollerball, for example. When we went to CES, seeing this rollerball, and it's just like, whoa, that's super. And it was taking headlines everywhere, right? But then when it actually comes to buying an LG TV, it's like, here's our
Dude, remember we saw the rollerball, was it 3-4 years ago? It only came out at the end of last year is when it officially came out for ridiculously expensive price.
$50,000 or $60,000. But again,
something like that, yeah.
It's not something that people are actually, well, the general buyer is not going to go out and get. It is just something that creates the hype. Yes, it shows off the technology that LG is capable of, but then you generally will buy a standard, whether that be an OLED LG TV or a NanoCell or something like that. That's what you'll actually go and buy. But this is what really catches the headlines and gets people talking about the brand. And even, we were looking at some stats of Samsung devices and the ones they sell the most, and it was some of the A series devices that they actually shift the most units.
Line.
Yeah, the A50 line, they actually shift the most units of that, but it's the Galaxy S series that really gets all of the attention, right? And even if you look at I'm sure they sold a bunch of S20 FEs as well last year. I mean, just looking at my affiliates, I was just like, whoa, okay, thank you, Samsung. But because it was just, you have that's the more affordable option. That's the one that most people can get. Yes, you're going to get the enthusiasts like ourselves, and yes, they will sell quite a few millions of the flagship devices, but generally those are the ones that get the headlines, get the attention, but then people go out and buy most people will go out and buy the more affordable option. And this seems to be Xiaomi's tactic here. They're showing up all these devices, and it's working because people are talking about them. I was tweeting about the Mi Air Charge technology, Marquez, lots of other prominent tech YouTubers were talking about this on Twitter. It gets people excited about Xiaomi as a brand, and then hey, today they launched the new Mi 11, and that's kind of what gets the attention.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Although it brings something to mind. You were saying that, and I part of me went, I kind of miss the simple days of the like the S8, the S9, and like the I guess the iPhone 7 was at that time or something like that, where there I feel now we have too many variations of devices. Like we've got 3 Galaxies, we've got 4 iPhones.
Yeah.
I just wish we went back to more simplicity, because to me that simplicity also allows for more of these kind of fun projects that Xiaomi is doing, and everybody does. Like even OnePlus did that with the OnePlus that had the. We saw it at CES.
The ND filter, the disappearing cameras that they've done,
stuff like that.
The concept devices. I agree with you to a certain extent, but I do like options, and I think, when Apple does something, then that it's working for them, right? Because having an iPhone Mini now, granted, the sales might not have been as high, but a lot of people who want smaller phones but don't want any compromise, hey, you can go for that one. You've got the iPhone 12, which realistically speaking, over time, most people are going to go for. But then you've got the iPhone 12 Pro, you've got the iPhone 12 Pro Max for the enthusiasts. And I think the options are good, although I do agree it can be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit confusing. But then again, like if you look at Samsung, they have always had lots of options, and they are still Android's #1 smartphone manufacturer in the world, right? And that's because they've got something for everyone. And I think one area where they were really kind of missing out on was that sort of £600 to £700, $600 to $700 range, and then along comes the FE and it fills that gap, because I think that was the only gap they really had, because generally if you wanted something like that, you'd probably have to go for a device that was a little bit older, maybe a few months, maybe last year's device, and that's the kind of price range you were able to find it. Then you'd have obviously the flagships that would be over 1,000. But yeah, I personally think options are good, but I do agree that it can be a little bit overwhelming with just too many options.
True. I mean, I think it's a fair point in general. I was just hoping for some trim down. I guess I just kind of missed the like simpler options. The reason I said that is because you were talking about the FE, and I remember I went to T-Mobile store, and this lady came in and she's like, I need a phone. And bless the guy who's the T-Mobile rep, because he walked her through all the phones. I knew where he was going to, and then he ended up at the S20 FE.
Man,
But
the S20
he
FE,
went
I
through
mean,
all that.
OnlyFans edition, as we say. Honestly speaking, like, Marquez picked that as his smartphone of the year on his smartphone awards, and I mean, it was just a very good all-round device, especially for that price range. And I was saying that it's something that OnePlus should be really worried about, because that's kind of usually their sort of area where they dominate, right? And the FE coming in sort of really changes that. So I'm really excited to see what the S21 FE offers later on in the year, hopefully. But when it comes to Xiaomi and this waterfall display, sure, it looks cool from some angles. It's not something I would personally buy. It's not something that I think will ever actually be released. And yes, to some people it looked cool, but it's definitely not practical. It's fair dues to Xiaomi. They make these things to get attention, and it works for them. So they'll carry on doing that. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to hear the full podcast episode, then that will be linked down below. And if you want to see more clips like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, and I'll see you next time.